I'd like you to start meditating, and then, as we did before, focusing on your breath. Go through the body section by section to work out any patterns of tension you may find there. And then see if you can get the mind centered in one spot as you fill the body with your awareness. And while we're meditating, after we get started, then I will start reading some of the questions and the answers. But you please continue meditating while I'm reading the questions and answers. If the question is relevant to you, you can listen. If it's not relevant, just let it go past. Don't let this be a distraction. A question: which is the most preferred type of meditation? Meditating on the breath is the safest, because it doesn't give rise to strange visions or unsettling visions. And you can test whether your mind state is normal. If the breath feels comfortable, it feels at ease, and you know your mind is at normal and in the present moment. Now there are other meditations that are good for specific problems that come up in the mind. For instance, when you're feeling anger, try goodwill meditation. Goodwill for yourself, reminding yourself that the anger is not going to help you do the skillful thing. If you really wish for your own true happiness, you're not going to act under the power of the anger. And then you develop goodwill for the person you're angry at, reminding yourself that that person has some good qualities. And all of us are aiming at happiness, whether it's skillfully or not. If you can't think of any good qualities at all in that person, you have to have pity on that person. When the mind is back in normal, then you return to the breath. The breath is basically a home base for all the other kinds of meditation. Another good kind of meditation is when you're feeling lust. Ask yourself, which part of the body are you lusting for? And then look at your own body. Take this in your own mind. Take the skin off your body and see if there's any part in there that's really worthy of lust. And then you can imagine the other person the same way. And when the lust dies down, then you go back to the breath. When you're feeling lazy, you can remind yourself you could die at any time. Is your mind ready? If the qualities of the mind are not solid enough so that you're not afraid of death, then you've got work to do with the mind. That thought should give you some encouragement to stick with the breath, to go back to the meditation. So you take the meditation as your home base, you take your breath as the home base. And then you can use other topics of meditation when they are needed. When the need is past, then you go back to the breath. Question: what is the difference between breathing meditation and compassion meditation? Please describe in detail. Thank you kindly. Okay, compassion meditation is a variation on meditation on goodwill or metta. Compassion is when you think of people who are suffering, or people who are doing things that are harmful, and you have pity on them, you have compassion for them. If there's any way that you can help them, you think about ways that you can help. If you can't help, you just wish them goodwill. And then you have to develop thoughts of equanimity, realizing that some people are beyond your help. And it's not just for people who are suffering right now. If someone is doing something unskillful, harming themselves, harming other people, they're going to be suffering down the line, so you have to have compassion for that person too. That's compassion meditation. Now, breath meditation is basically a technique for getting the mind still by focusing on the breath. The energy of the breathing in, breathing out, but like we're doing right here, right now. The purpose in both cases is to bring the mind to stillness. Some people find compassion meditation brings the mind to concentration. Other people find that the breath is more effective in bringing the mind to concentration. breath is also helpful in seeing the relationship between events in the mind and events in the body, which is why it is the preferred method of meditation. How long should a proper meditation session be? This really depends on you, how much time you have in the course of the day. I would say at the very least 20 minutes every day. If you can do more than that, fine. Especially when you're just getting started, 20 minutes is about the right amount of time. And then as you get better in the meditation, you find you can add another 5 minutes and another 5. A good amount of time to let the meditation really have an impact on the mind is about an hour. But when you're starting out, you're going to start with 20 minutes. Question: what to do when your mind will not quiet down? How do you clear your mind? Okay, there are several things you can do. One is to think about the drawbacks of things that you're thinking about. If you thought about that for an entire day, what would that do to you? What kind of mind state would that put you in? If that doesn't help, then just ignore the thoughts. Like I said this morning, it's like having a group of people talking in one corner of the room and you're in the other corner of the room. You don't have to get involved with them. You don't have to straighten them out. Just let them be in their corner, you're in your corner. As long as your breath is there, you can still focus on it, even if there's thoughts about this, thoughts about that. Don't feel that you have to follow all the thoughts in your mind. Don't feel that you have to deal with them, tie them up or anything. Just let them go. And if you don't pay attention, after a while they'll go away. It's like a crazy person coming to talk to you. If you pay attention to the crazy person will pull you into their way of thinking. But if you just ignore the crazy person, they'll say outrageous things and do all kinds of things to get your attention. But you just be firm with your resolve. I'm not going to get involved. And after a while, the crazy person goes away. It's the same with these thoughts in the mind. Another way of getting the mind to settle down is to remind yourself, as I said earlier, you don't know how much longer you're going to live. So if the thoughts are worries about the future, you can remind yourself, I don't know if I'm going to be alive to see that. The future is very uncertain. What is certain is that whatever happens in the future, you're going to need more mindfulness, you're going to need more alertness. And those are the qualities we develop as we focus on the breath. You're mindful of the breath, in other words, you keep the breath in mind. You remember to stay here. And then you're alert to the breath, noticing when it's coming in, when it's going out, what it's doing. Those are qualities of mind you need to develop for any situation. So if the mind is worried about plans for the future, remind yourself, the future is very uncertain, but what is certain is you're going to need more mindfulness and more alertness. So even though your thoughts may say you're being irresponsible for not following them, don't listen to them, don't believe them. How do you center your mind when you're experiencing intense grief from the death of a family member? Okay, what you may want to do first is give some expression to your grief. In other words, if you want to talk to other people about what a good person that was, any way you feel for expressing your grief, don't feel you have to bottle it up. But then realize that how are you going to help that person, wherever that person has been reborn? You want to send a good mental energy to that person. And by wallowing in the grief, you're not helping that person at all. What's better is for you to do something good, like meditating, and then dedicate the merit of that meditation to the other person, wherever that other person may be. So if you really want to help the person, this is the best way to help, is to create a good mental energy and then send the current of that energy to the person. So how do you develop good mental energy when you feel grief? Tell yourself, well, here's something useful you can do, something practical, something helpful that you can do for that person. And then each time your mind wanders back to the person, remember, okay, you're going to help that person much better if you can stay here with the breath. And allow the mind to settle down and find some peace inside. Then you make a gift of that peace. Dedicate that peace to the person who's passed away. Here are two questions that are very similar. One is, how does one better practice meditation, mindfulness at work? In other words, can one do mindfulness meditation while doing a task like gardening? Okay, in both cases, you want to be mindful of the energy of the breath in the body. Make that your center. The whole purpose of meditation as you go through daily life is to maintain a still center inside, in spite of the movement of your own body, in spite of the activities you're engaged in or with the people you're involved in. You want to have that still center as your firm foundation. And don't think of it as just one more thing you have to do when you multitask. It's not one more thing that you have to juggle. It's the place where you stand as you juggle your other responsibilities. So it's the same with the breath, the walking meditation. You try to find a spot, preferably in the center of your torso, in the center of the chest, in front of your stomach. Any place where you know that when you feel fearful or uncertain or angry, that spot in the body will tend to tense up. Try to stay with that spot. Think of the breath energy, keeping it open and relaxed at all times as you go through the activity. It's like trying to maintain your balance as you go through the day. The fact that you keep it open and relaxed makes it more attractive to stay there. And you realize that it does have a good impact on your mood. So things that used to knock you over don't knock you over anymore. So find that center in the body, a place where you tend to tense up when you're feeling fearful or angry. And very consciously breathe through that so that it stays open and relaxed all the way through the in-breath, all the way through the out. Even when other people are yelling at you, even when you have other responsibilities, you can maintain a sense of having that energy open and relaxed. And that helps carry the meditation through your daily life, through all your activities, and then when you come back to meditate, here you are. It's the difference between keeping a dog on a long leash and a short leash. If the dog is on a long leash, it'll get wound around lampposts and people's legs and park benches and who knows what. You're going to get the dog back, then you have to unwind the leash. It takes a long time. But if you keep the dog on a short leash, when you want to sit down, the dog is right there. It's the same with the mind. You keep it on a short leash and you keep it in a place where it likes to be, with that sense of ease and well-being that you can maintain in the spot that you've chosen as your focus. So that when you sit down to meditate, there you are. You've got your focal point already there. When I sit and meditate to a very still position, nothing happens. I don't know what to do next. Okay, what to do next is to ask yourself, why does anything have to happen? Your duty right now is to learn how to maintain that sense of stillness while you're sitting, and then when you get up from the meditation, see if you can maintain that stillness as well. Okay, when the stillness is strong, then you can start asking questions. Is there any change or fluctuation in the stillness? Does it go up and down, or does it stay steady? If you look very carefully, you'll see that it has its ups and downs. That's something to look into. Those ups and downs in the stillness are the sign of dukkha or stress. Sattva or dukkha. then you know you've got something to look into. When the stress goes up, what did you do? When the stress goes down, what did you do? You have to ask questions if you're going to gain insight. Insight doesn't come floating into your mind. You use the still mind as the place that you question the movements of the mind. So the mind doesn't seem to be moving. Okay, watch it very carefully. The movements are very subtle. And that's when you begin to see where you're causing yourself unnecessary stress. And you can learn how to let go of it. People who don't kill an animal for food but consume the meat, are they as guilty as the one who does the killing? No. But there is some bad karma in that, but it's not nearly as bad as the person who actually kills the animal. For the sake of the precepts, you make a promise to yourself. You're not going to kill anything, and you're not going to tell anybody else to kill. So you don't walk into a restaurant and order a live fish be killed for you. But eating the meat is not nearly as bad as doing the actual killing. If you feel uncomfortable eating the meat, don't eat it. Please explain the word contemplation. Your contemplation is just what I explained right now. You want to look at your actions and see where they're causing unnecessary stress and suffering. Your main purpose as a meditator is to learn how to find a happiness that is harmless. And to do that, you have to look at your actions to see what ways you are causing unnecessary harm, either to yourself or to other people. The basic contemplation goes like this. Before you act, this applies to physical actions as well as to actions in the mind. Before you choose to act, ask yourself, what's your motivation for acting? Do you anticipate that anyone is going to be harmed, either yourself or the people? If you anticipate harm, you don't do it. If you don't anticipate harm, then you go ahead and do it. While you're doing it, you watch for the results of the action while you're doing it. See if anything is coming up immediately as a result of your actions. And again, if they're causing harm, then you stop. If you don't see any harm being caused, you continue. After the action is done, you reflect on the long-term consequences of the action. If you see that there was any harm, then you make the resolve never to repeat that action again. If you don't see any harm, then you can take joy in the fact that you're living a life that's blameless. That's contemplation. In other words, you're contemplating your actions. So for the purpose of putting an end to the unnecessary stress that you're causing. The meditation helps get you more sensitive to your actions and to the results and also to your motivations. It enables you to contemplate more clearly and with more refinement. In the sutras, they say the 5 aggregates are fabrications. In every instance of consciousness is a form of fabrication. It's relatively easy to notice that your attitudes, perceptions, reactions, etc. are fabrications. In other words, things put together intentionally in the mind. How do we observe and work with consciousness as a fabrication? This is the most difficult of the aggregates to focus on. It's best to focus on aggregates of perception and feeling. But consciousness as a fabrication, you want to look at every time you are conscious of something, why did you pay attention to it? It's the act of attention that makes it a fabrication. So what are you paying attention to? Why are you paying attention to it? Is it your greed, aversion, and delusion? Or is it you're paying attention for the sake of discernment? That's how you begin to see that there is fabrication even in the simple act of consciousness. Okay, the last question for this hour. What is the deathless part of life? The deathless part is the part that doesn't change. Where do you find that? You find that in the mind. It's a different dimension that can be uncovered in the mind. When you bring the mind to stillness and you start looking at the movements of the mind. You realize that every movement, even a skillful movement, has some stress. In the beginning, you don't want to drop the skillful movements. You hold on to the skillful movements of the mind, your skillful ideas, your skillful intentions, so that you can let go of the unskillful ones. And when the unskillful ones are quiet, then you can turn around and look and see that even the skillful ones have their drawbacks. The mind can let go. Ultimately, this is not an easy process, because you find that there are many, many levels of stress in the mind. But when you finally get through the last level of stress, you let go. And the mind opens to another dimension where there is no death at all. It's outside of space, outside of time. And it's the ultimate happiness. That's where this practice is going. You know, whether you want to go all the way or not, the simple fact that you're trying to reduce the amount of stress and suffering that your actions are causing, that's a good thing right there. So focus on where there is stress and what you're doing to add to the stress. So you can learn how not to add that extra unnecessary stress to your life. You follow that strategy, and it gets more and more refined, and it will take you to deeper and deeper levels of the mind. However far you pursue it, it's all good. You're not the only one who's going to benefit. If you cause less stress to yourself, you're less of a burden on other people. And you have more strength to help them with their problems as well. Okay, question. What should I do when doing meditation? My mind is always running away. The short answer is don't chase it. Don't go running with it. But that means you have to be able to see it run away. It runs away, but you don't run with it. That's a skill. Try to catch yourself more and more quickly each time. Each time you realize that you've run away, just come right back to the breath. Drop the thought. You don't have to finish the thought. You don't have to complete the thought. Just leave it uncompleted and come right back to the breath. And remind yourself that yes, your mind will run away again, so you have to be on the lookout for when it's going to run away. When you get to the point where you can see it running, but you're not running with it, then you're in a much better position. It will run for a bit and then just disappear. It's where we go chasing after it, trying to straighten it out. That's the problem. So keep reminding yourself, the breath is right here, the mind is right here. The thoughts can run wherever they want, but you don't have to go running with them. That's the important part. That's what mindfulness is all about. Remember to stay with the breath. I have a problem with sleepiness when I meditate. I realize that mindfulness is weak. When I meditate, the mind often falls asleep. Please give advice on how to pass through this problem. Okay, the first thing is, if you're already tired when you meditate, it's good to rest for a bit. And then get up and meditate so you feel a little bit more refreshed. Secondly, as soon as the breath gets comfortable, try to expand the range of your awareness to fill the whole body. In other words, when the breath is comfortable, start thinking about where are your hands, where are your feet, where are your knees. Can you spread comfortable breath energy to the hands and the feet and the knees? This way you give yourself work to do while you're still. As long as the work is inside the body, you're fine. The reason the mind falls asleep is that its range of awareness gets very small, and when the breath gets comfortable, then you just drift off to sleep. So once there's comfort, spread your awareness. It's another similar question. Sometimes when meditating, I find that the relaxation of clearing my mind causes me to drift off in a sleep-like state. Is this normal, and should I be trying to bring myself back to alertness when this occurs? It is normal, but don't follow it. In other words, you don't want to get into a sleep-like state. There's something that's called delusion concentration, where the breath is comfortable and you start getting very vague in your focus. And that kind of concentration is not good. The name delusion concentration tells you it's not where you want to be. So as soon as the breath gets comfortable and you've cleared out your mind, try to give the mind work to do in the present moment. Think of all the different parts of the body and ask yourself, are they all getting nourished with the breath? Can you spread a comfortable feeling of breath energy through, think of it going through your nerves or through your blood vessels. Any way you can think of this energy going out to all the different parts of your body. That helps to keep you awake. I have some of my best meditations lying down. This is a question. I can remain very grateful and relaxed in the corpse posture. Do you recommend doing meditation this way for long periods? You can try that yourself. And the problem with the corpse posture is it's the only posture that is not self-correcting. In other words, it doesn't tell you when you've had enough. So if you find that you can stay awake, also you might want to try lying on one side to give some variation to it. But it is also important that you got to learn how to meditate in all postures and not just when you're really relaxed. So once you have a good meditation where you're lying down, you can then get up and see if you can maintain the same mental state in the sitting posture. And then from the sitting posture, go to the walking posture. Question, do Buddhists worship statues? Well, some Buddhists do. Other Buddhists use the statues as a reminder. You look at the Buddha image up there, and he's a reminder of the qualities of mindfulness, alertness, wisdom, and concentration that we're trying to develop in the practice. When you bow down to the statue, you're showing respect to those qualities and making a vow that you want to develop them in yourself. The reason we respect the Buddha is because he teaches us to respect something very important in ourselves, which is our desire for true happiness. And on top of that, he also has us respect our ability to attain true happiness. That's something that most of society wants to have us forget. They want us to look for happiness in their merchandise and the things we can buy from them. They want us to forget that true happiness is possible and it can be developed by training the mind like we're doing right here, right now. So when we bow down to the images, we're trying to remind ourselves to respect our desire for true happiness and to respect our ability to find that if we train the mind. Now in a few minutes we'll break for walking meditation. Walking meditation is very similar to sitting meditation. You try to focus on your breath, keep your breath comfortable. If you have trouble staying with the in-breath and out-breath, just choose one spot in the body. It's best if it's in the middle of the chest or right in front of your stomach, someplace right in the front of your torso. Keep your awareness there. And if you feel that spot in the body tensing up or tightening up at any spot, just at any time, just think of it relaxing, dissolving away. When you walk, try to choose a quiet corner of the monastery. You can walk back and forth, or you can just walk around. You can put your hands clasped down in front of you, or your hands behind you. Don't swing your arms. Keep your gaze down so that you don't have to say hi to anybody or talk to anybody. Just walk quietly. If someone says hi, you smile. But otherwise, try to maintain your focus right at your center. And keep that spot of the body relaxed. Think of the breath energy nourishing that spot of the body. Walk at a slow pace or at a normal pace, whatever is comfortable for you. The whole purpose of walking meditation is to get used to having your center, staying focused on your center even as you do other things and are surrounded by other activities. This is good practice in learning how to carry your meditation into your daily life. Because if your mind can be still, only when you're sitting very quietly with your eyes closed. Then it won't be there when you need it. You need it when you're dealing with other people. You need it when you're engaged in your own activities. You need to have that sense of centered mind strong. So here's some practice in maintaining the center in the midst of all the yelling children and what else we got around here. Before you leave meditation, thoughts of goodwill once more. Think of a sense of peace or respite you felt for the past couple of hours as we've been meditating. Dedicate it to others, either specific people you know are suffering right now, or all living beings in all directions, our companions in birth, aging, illness, and death. May we all find peace and well-being in our hearts.